Let me know when we're live.
Yeah, I will. I'm
Yeah.
always slow to make. I always want to make sure it actually
Okay, we're live.
gets there.
And we're live from the Huntsville, Alabama airport.
I can say for a fact I've never been to the airport.
In Huntsville,
No, that's like one of the few I haven't been to.
it says we're
Where are you
live.
connecting?
Charlotte.
Just a plane issue?
An American Airlines issue.
It's Christmas, baby. Christmas with American Airlines.
Okay, we're live. Y'all ready to start recording?
Ready?
All right. Haven't done this in a while. All right, three, two. Welcome to the Jungle Podcast. Auburn has completed the non-conference part of their schedule in what has been more fun than we could have ever anticipated at the beginning of the year. An 87 to 58 win over Monmouth. Fun fact, my dad's alma mater for his MBA played his undergrad alma mater tonight. And Auburn was victorious. Didn't cover, probably didn't deserve the cover the way they played, but we got it done. Great close to 2024 and all the great things. This is 9 straight years of not losing a home non-conference game, which is incredible. If you're watching on YouTube, Jackson is joining us from the Huntsville airport in hour 6 of a flight delay. So, and Ryan's here as well. Who knows what you're going to get tonight on this random episode? But guys, War Eagle, we are moving to SEC play.
We're
War Eagle?
finally we're finally boarding after 6 hours, just in time for me to not do the podcast once again.
All right,
Hey,
well,
vibes are high though.
give us your 2 minutes recap from what you got to watch while you were sitting in an airport.
I mean, we were sleepy, which was fine. The ninth year in a row that we've gone undefeated at a conference in Neville Arena, which is just insane, leads the country, might be a record. I don't know. The biggest thing I can take from this game is we took care of business, and we might have seen two of the top 10 best dunks of the Bruce Pearl era, maybe of Auburn all time from Ja'Kai
All
Howard. He's
time.
an
All time.
absolute freak. An alley oop, one handed jam, and an alley oop reverse from half court from Pettiford, freshman to freshman. I want to hear discussion on the best slam dunks in Auburn history. There's not that much you're going to learn from this one, so I want to hear some fun banter about
You've
dunks.
got you've got the right guy on. I've been thinking about this since it happened.
Me too. This will be a good historical pod for sure. Ryan, what did you see out there? Give us your brief. We'll do our MVP. We'll do our player discussion because you and I haven't been on in a while, so I think we can
Yeah.
talk about some trends and how things are going. But what did you see as you watched SEC Network Plus tonight?
Yeah, I got uh Bowen and John Chompy on the call. But it was, sleepy. I think we all kind of possibly expected that after a break from just this onslaught of a schedule that we've had. I mean, coming off of Purdue into this one over Christmas, like of course there was going to be a lot of rust, a lot of taking this team maybe a little lightly. You definitely saw that at the beginning. Monmouth had a good plan coming in of spreading the ball out, really slowing the pace down, they were pretty efficient at the beginning of the game. And then obviously when we really want to go, we go. And we've seen that in almost every game we played this year. There's always been that point in time in the game where we get a stop, we hit a three, we get another stop, something happens, and then it's like, boom, here we go. And, they move on an 18-0 run to in the first half. But, not much you can take out of it besides some plays. We all know what this team can do. We all know how they could play when they want to play. And so it was just a matter of getting a result, getting some guys some minutes. I mean, Ja'Kai Howard had 17 minutes all pretty much in the second half. Like he didn't come off the floor to the very end, or I don't even think he came off the floor after like the first time out. So it was all about getting guys some minutes, getting guys some different reps and staying healthy is the key there.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I thought we started, I thought our defensive, either our scout or our execution was really bad, which we never really feel. This staff does such a great job. Makes me think it was more execution, but just giving up a lot of good looks, giving up just a lot of miscommunications. Kind of Monmouth hit some shots, hung around. You knew it wouldn't last, but still, I just didn't think the effort and energy were there. That's what Bruce always says. So that was a little disappointing. You're right. It's very predictable coming off the break and the holidays. When you're a 36 and a half point favorite, it
Yeah.
is what it is. But it's hard. I don't want to spend time nitpicking some lethargic defense by a couple guys. I'd rather talk about how this team's ceiling is so high that you go up on a team by almost 40, even with that bad start. I mean, it was 28-28, and we went on a 18-0 run to end the first half. Um, and I think our expectations for this team are just so high now. For me, especially on the defensive end, like when this team defends like they are capable of, there are not many teams in the country that are going to be able to hang with them for 40 minutes.
Mm.
And so that's what I'm watching for. I thought it was a very workmanlike performance for us to get through. And now we're closing 2024 on a high. We should be the number one team in the country. We're number one in the net. We're the number one overall seed in Lunardi's bracketology. We're number one in Ken Palm. The polls
Keep
haven't figured
going.
it out, but
Keep going.
we're the best.
BPI, uh,
We're
eight,
the best team in college basketball. And as somebody living in Tennessee, we might not be in a month. I hope we continue to peak. And Jackson's all about tinkering and continuing to try to get better. I think it's significant that we've cut JP out of the rotation already. I think it's significant that we're getting Ja'Kai Howard in certain spots. We'll talk a lot more about him, but overall, this team is the best offensive team in America, unless things have changed in the last week or two. We have the best offensive efficiency in America, and we know what a Bruce Pearl defense can be when we play locked in on that end. A lot to love about this team.
but
Before I go, remember, I want to hear what the best dunk was in Auburn history, and I
We're
want to hear
going.
who the MVP is, and I want everyone to know that we're going to have a big SEC preview at a conference, kind of recap, and it's a great time to hop on the podcast if you don't already have it and send it to your friends. And I'll see you later, War Eagle.
Hey, Jackson, War Eagle. Safe travels.
safe flight, Jackson.
I guess we should talk about the MVP. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm kind of in the camp of Janai Broom, just casually didn't even play that well, didn't even get the ball a ton. 14, 11, and 4 in 22 minutes. I just think he makes everything work on this team. You could give it to Cheney for a good stretch he had when the game was close in the first half. You could give it to Denver for hitting all his threes, playing great on both ends like he always does. You could talk about the dunks from Ja'Kai Howard. You could talk about Chad Baker hitting three threes. To me, I know it's boring. I just think Janai Broom's the best player on the floor. I think he's one of the best players in America, and it's hard not to give him the MVP.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm going to lean towards. But the argument for Chad Baker is pretty good because man, his shot making ability, on a step back three or from the corner. I mean, we saw this a little bit towards the end of last year. I got bored at work today because like nobody's really working, and I was watching a ton of highlights from like last year, because we kind of all forgot the team from last year a little bit because this year has just been so incredible so far. And I was like, what did we look like towards the end of last year? Because that's just kind of how he picked things off and ran with it. His shot making ability in that Florida game, he was hitting some of those shots that he started hitting against Iowa State. And tonight is one of those things too. I think someone mentioned like, man, he just keeps falling over, he keeps getting fouled. He's just like comfortable shooting the ball that way. And he has probably, I think, 4 or 5 4-point plays this season so far. There was one in the Iowa State game. There's definitely two tonight. There's probably one more at some other point of this year. But my vote was going to be for Chad Baker, Mazzara, just because he hits a big shot after big shot whenever we need it, or whenever the game is kind of tilting. He just makes plays, and his ability to pass the ball at the top of the key off of different flex cuts, off of different motions is what really I think elevates this offense from where it was last year. Some of those passes he makes to Janai, where Janai is like kind of rolling off his guy, and gets him the ball where he can then have an easy layup or the defender is in a bad spot, I just think Chad like changes this team and elevates his team higher than where we were last year. So all I had to say, I was gonna give it to Chad. I'm cool with Janai just because that stat line, I mean, double double. You also got to look at Dylan Cardwell. His
Yeah.
first double double in an Auburn uniform was tonight. Crazy.
Is it, is that right? He hadn't have. I thought he got one a few games ago. Maybe not. Maybe he was close.
141 games. I believe his
Yeah,
first
I mean,
double.
you love that too. I was thinking. I mean, it's just unbelievable to have two guys get a double double at center. I know they're playing together a little bit. Um, it's just you don't see this stuff in college basketball. I mean, it's just
Hey,
it's insane.
let's call a timeout here. Who all laughed in the preseason pod about the prediction of the Twin Towers? I think you were one. I think you were the hardest laugh.
Guilty. No, I did not. I was so uncomfortable with putting Janai at the four, and it started off a little sluggish, and it is not only great. As of a few weeks ago, it was the best five-man lineup in all of college basketball in terms of efficiency and all those things. So
It's
yeah,
crazy.
Ryan, best call you've ever. I mean, and I think you said by the end of the year you thought it might be. I don't know if you called it being right out
No,
of the gate like
I did
the
not
best
call it out of the
lineup,
gate. I
but
think we were
no,
all kind of
great call.
shocked. We were all kind of shocked when they announced that first lineup in the
Yeah.
first game. We were all like, Normstradamus over here calling that, and I was like, that was going to be my last game of the season. Like, pick there, maybe like an injury or something. But like, I mean, the fact that they're going to roll with that for the whole year, and just, I think we kind of underestimated Cardwell's defensive ability on the wing. I mean, they're so comfortable with just switching every single defensive man to man that, he's just so comfortable guarding whoever on the perimeter. I mean, the fact that he guarded like Braden Smith, who was a potential like All-American
Oh,
guard here, like that stuff just is what gives me confidence going into SEC play that like maybe 2 years ago that would have been a big red flag, but he is so good with his feet now, so good with his body, that he's staying in front, that he's not going for any pump fakes. There were times like last year and the year before where he would just be flying into the stands, on a pump fake, and like he's keeping his ground. I just love Cardwell's play right now and the way that they're um, rolling to the rim, all that good stuff. It's good, but I think probably the ho hum MVP's got to be Jedi Broom, if we're being honest.
yeah. I mean, I want to get back to. I have this greater theme going in my head that I want to get to as we talk about some of these guys. But my argument against, I totally agree with you. Chad as a shot maker is so special. I mean, he's so unique. He gets guys. He's a lefty. He has that going
It's
for him. He's crafty. He can
It's
do it in
always
transition.
shocking to me when he makes shots. I don't know why. It's just always like you don't see him as a pure shooter because he's flailing and then he's just knocking down stuff left and right.
He's 94% at the line for Ben, 94% this year at the line. Huge. He can knock down threes. We know he can go to the basket. Now, he's never going to be the best rebounder. He's never, I don't think, I struggled the first 10 minutes of this game. I thought he barely was jogging back defensively. I thought he fell asleep and got backdoored a few times. He was complaining about Miles, I think Miles Kelly didn't throw him the ball when he was open, and he was, mad about that even after he made a shot the next trip. Like, there's all these little, but then you see when Auburn got it going, and when he locked in more defensively, he starts making things happen. He's celebrating, sharing, and by the way, an incredible tip in at the buzzer that didn't count in the first half. He would have been Auburn's leading scorer if that counts. So I'm not
Oh yeah,
against
that's
it.
right. That's right.
I just don't know I just think overall, man, you just Broom is such a force. He had 4 assists. I mean, he had as many assists as anybody on the team besides Pettiford. He didn't turn the ball over. Janai, I'm talking about. Like it's just I know it's boring, but I just think so much of what we do on both ends flows through him. And when he's on the floor, you mentioned it. There was a long stretch in the first half where he was off the floor, and it was like kind of weird, and it was not going great. And I don't know what all
Yeah.
the plus minus is. I just know with Broom this year, you obviously want to keep him healthy, which again, another huge check mark for non-conference. We're healthy. Miles might have a little wrist issue. It was just 2 games ago we were worried about Chennai's shoulder. So we're in great shape with that. Anyway, I want to go ahead and say Broom's the MVP and be boring, and so we can talk about these guys, if that's cool with you.
Hey, that's fine.
Uh,
I know Ben will probably have pitchforks at our front desk.
Ben won't like it, but Ben's
But
off. He gets a break. Shout out to Ben. He's been really carrying the pod this year. But I did want to mention one more thing about Janai. He is such a graceful and elite rebounder. He makes it look so easy to just gobble up these rebounds that you need to have on the defensive end, not to mention the offensive second chances. I just having a guy that is such an anchor on the defensive glass and then having Cardwell be his backup is a massive reason this team is so good. I'm not sure it gets the attention that it should. I mean, we almost doubled Monmouth up in rebounds tonight, 46-27. So I just wanted to, I don't know if the rebounding part gets enough credit for tonight. I mean, how many first half double doubles has he had this year, Ryan? 4?
it's a lot. I mean, it's all effortless too. Like the Ohio State game, I mean, he was definitely just head and shoulders better than everyone else. But I mean, SC plays where I think we're really going to see him shine. Like it's just been so easy for him out there.
Right.
I
And
mean, the Memphis game was so easy. And that's what like is crazy to me watching these teams that were just absolutely annihilating, going out there and playing other teams like Memphis playing Ole Miss. I'm like, dude, they did not look like that against us at all, just because we were just head and shoulders better than them. Like Janai was just that much better, made them look like boys down low. That's what is crazy to me, and how like, yeah, I mean, he's got to have at least 4 or 5 first half double doubles easily this year. We could probably pull that. I'll probably do some research here real quick, but it's got to be 4 or 5 for sure.
well, it's just amazing. I just think he does all these things that you just don't ever see happen um, in the NFL. You just don't, or the NFL, sorry, in college basketball, you just don't see it. Um, so shout out Janai Broom, shout out Chad Baker. Those two guys continue, I think, to be the leaders of this team, and we are going to go as they go. I think it's fair to say that both of them for their skills, and this is what I want to get into as we transition to SEC play. Let's talk about all the elite weapons that we have on this team, and I'm not talking about players. I'm talking about basketball traits that we have assembled on this team. We just talked about Janai Broom and the rebounding, and the Jackson's gushed about the touch on those turnaround shots, the push shots, the mid range. He's added the three. He has a step back James Harden three that he got fouled on again. He's made a couple this year. He's added these pieces. Cardwell, I'm so glad you mentioned it. At the Purdue game, I got to go. Uh, Watching him lock up Braden Smith. Keep calling Braden man. Braden Smith multiple times um, was the most exciting thing in that game for me. It was unbelievable to see in person. Like I just it blows my mind that Dylan and that is his weapon. And Bruce is calling him like the potential defensive player of the year if we keep winning. And there's a reason for that. He can guard anyone, and he can rebound, and he can defend, and all those things.
Yep.
You mentioned Chad Baker's shot making. Like I'm just going to go on a little all these things, and then you can kind of react. Like Chad is a unique, incredible shot maker and shot taker and shot maker, and it's just weird and it's hard for people to guard. Miles Kelly is an NBA smooth shooter. Chaney Johnson is, we thought, the most athletic freak on this team. I'm not so sure of that anymore, but he is a
It's one
monster.
A, 1B.
1A, 1B. Um, I think Denver is one of the best all around guards in the SEC. I do. I don't think his numbers are going to show it, but I think he can go up against anybody. He's long enough to defend. He's. I think he is shooting so confidently right now. Like Bruce is always on him to shoot when he's open, and you can see he has that green light that Bruce always wants his guys to have. He's looking for those shots. Tahad, you and I love Tahad. He is a bucket. He is a young freshman who's just getting better and better. He is going to be an incredible player. And then in case all that, doesn't make a great basketball team, you bring in this guy who's the eighth or ninth guy, in the rotation. Ja'Kai Howard is the already he didn't even play for most of the season. He's already the best dunker I think we've ever had. Like, I think it's fair to say. Now, we can make jokes. He had 0 assists on the season coming into this game. He had one, his first assist of the year tonight. Defensively, it was a mess. It's getting better. It's still not great. The ball sticks sometimes. But if you want to talk about a skill and a weapon to help push this team through SEC play, that guy in the open court or backdooring people is a problem. So
Yeah.
we have this superhero team with all they aren't NBA elite draft picks on their own merit, but they all do these things that are at the highest level of college basketball that I've seen. And I think that's what's making this team so dominant.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's all the pieces, right? And it's a big puzzle piece every year on the intangibles and the things that you need to push you over in certain games that like I mentioned earlier, I was watching some of last year's team and like we all thought that team was great and something special. But then you fast forward to this year's and you watch this year's team play and you're like, man, the way they're moving the ball, the way they understand their roles, the way they improved in the offseason and so many different things. Like, yes, like everyone has something that can help this team win. Like I mentioned earlier in our group chat, that Ja'Kai Howard's like the perfect freshman for this team. Like you have nothing but seniors on the team that all, they're veteran, they know how to win, they know how to play. Then you plug in this guy that's just a rim runner, right? And all you have to do is get past your man, like let's say in the half court, all you gotta do is get past your man, and everyone collapses towards you, and whoop, right behind there he is, alley oop, or the open court, like you're mentioning, like just a rim runner can hit a three occasionally, and Jakai is locked in on games where the opponent is ranked or it's a big time game. Like he is locked in. Like that's only been like Purdue or um, probably really only Purdue or Ohio State. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but, in some of those games where we're up big, like, yeah, the shoulders start hanging because he's not hitting shot. Like, that's just part of it. Like, that's just a kid, 18-year-old being an 18-year-old. But, like, the perfect puzzle piece for that. Like, if you go back to 18, 19, or 20, the 2019 team with Malik Dunbar, like, Malik Dunbar was kind of what Ja'Kai Howard is. Like, an above the rim player, gets freakish alley-oops, can do chase down blocks, can hit the occasional shot. He ended up getting better over his time here in year two.
He was just older. He was just older.
Yes, older. He's a JUCO player. Like this guy is straight out of overtime elite. Like I think in Bruce Pearl's press conference today, he said Sky Howard will play in the NBA one day. Like I could see it. Like he's got a lot to work on if he stays here. If he like this coaching staff will put him in the NBA one day
Yeah.
if he believes in it and if he gets over his attitude, things like that. But yes, like Miles Kelly, all offseason we talked about just how good of a shooter he is, how much of a volume shooter he had to be at Georgia Tech. So here you put him in the offense of a Bryce Brown, of a we're gonna run you off screens, and like game after game in every big game, he goes off the screens so well to get these open looks that he's like the perfect fit for what we needed in that position. There's always so many question marks in this transfer portal. And yeah, we missed on one of them, but like that is the one that we hit on. And like Denver Jones, like you mentioned, who would have thought that he would have been our starting point guard a year ago? But like he's the perfect fit for this because in a typical Bruce Pearl team where the point guard is king, they're having to pull the ball out under 15 on the shot clock, run a high pick and roll. Like you're trusting your point guard there. That hasn't happened, to my knowledge, in a very long time. Of like Denver having to pull it out, like do the hand on the head, like get a high ball screen from Janai and go with it. Like the ball is moving, it's not sticking. It's beautiful. And everyone knows their role, and we're just we're just way far ahead, I think, of where we all thought we'd be at this point. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Like time will tell, but it's just beautiful to watch.
Well,
I'm trying to take it all in every game.
yeah, I mean, I think all that is so good, and I mean, you just laugh. I laugh because yeah, Ja'Kai Howard's the eighth guy. Miles Kelly's the fifth guy on offense. I mean, he's um, and those are NBA traits. And I guess I hadn't really thought about it till watching this game. We have these elite high end traits in so many of these guys who are playing, and it's just playing together in a beautiful way. One other funny thing as we're talking about Jakai, and we're going to go talk about dunks. Because there's not a lot of great dunks in Auburn basketball past, but there's a few, and
Oh
Ryan and
yeah.
I are probably top 4% equipped to have that conversation. No offense to everybody else. Um, so it is really funny on a team of all seniors, and it's with Tahad too. It's Tahad and Jakai. I just am loving every time they get a foul called the conversation because the conversation between Chris Moore and the staff is much shorter and much more ownership over what's happening. And it's just hard for the freshmen to just like own it. Like, yeah, like you kind of got beat. You were out too high. You slapped down. And like, I'm just loving it. Has to be hard for them in the best way, to your point, like of a group to learn from and to play with. And the cool thing is, after the airplane, whatever Tahad earned all their respect in Houston. I guarantee you, if there
Yeah.
was any sort of doubt about him as a freshman, it was over by the time they left Houston after beating Kelvin Sampson's team.
After putting up a
I think
goose egg against Vermont, by the way.
yes, yes, and they knew in practice. I'm not saying they needed that, but when you get kind of carried, him and Broom carried us to that second half win. And when you're a true freshman that does that with that veteran group, they're like, okay. Well, now Jakai, even after all the stuff early in the season, these last couple games, the rest of the team understands what kind of weapon he is and how much of a threat he could be. And I Ben texted us in our chat while we were recording that at the post game press conference, I think it was Chad Baker and Dylan Cardwell basically said like, yeah, like that's the best dunk I've ever seen, and maybe the best dunk in Neville, which Neville hadn't been around that long. But let's have that conversation. So just to give some context, if you didn't get to watch on SEC Network Plus tonight, there were two dunks from Jakai that were just unbelievable. Number one was a fast break 2-on-1 off a turnover. Tahad, was it? It was Tahad both passes. Is that
Both
right?
passes, man. So beautiful.
Tahad to Jakai. It was a little bit low because Jakai jumped so high, and he just casually catches it in midair and windmills it on a fast break alley oop, which I don't know if I've ever seen that. I'm sure
Dude,
it's happened.
do you remember
I don't
Gerald
think it's
Green in the NBA? Gerald Green?
yeah,
So,
like NBA. Okay,
yeah, but not college.
college and Auburn. Like I don't think I've ever seen that. So historical there. The second dunk was was it wasn't a fast break, right? It was like a half court set, right? They kind of fell asleep on him.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I be honest.
He was going up. They throw Tahad throws it up, and it's Jakai is running along the baseline with his eyes to Tahad at the top of the key, jumps, catches the ball in midair. His eyes never hit the rim, and reverse alley oop jams it. And
So,
I was just gushing because I don't know how he gets so high, his frame, so effortlessly. It like defies physics. And you've been on this, you've been talking about how, and we all knew he was a freak and one of the best dunkers and athletic guys in the class. And you can see how all the other stuff maybe isn't all the way there. I just, it's in the, for me, it's the top 5 or 10 dunks all time in Auburn basketball history tonight.
so Jackson wants us to hurry up here because his plane's about to take off. But here's I don't know if people remember this, but our guy Bryant Smith, who was on the podcast one time, had a very similar, if not better, alley-oop from Doc Robinson back in 1999 against Ole Miss, which was a reverse jam that just sent the absolute place on fire.
That
That
one was
was
better.
Yes, that one was better. That one's always going to be like a top three dunk because of like the way the place was going. Like, just it was even farther back than half court. So shout out Brian Smith on that one. That's probably like two or one, honestly, in like the dunk history of Auburn basketball. Because like this one is was top five for sure. Like you just don't see that from a half court perspective of an alley-oop. But the 99 Jam,
Yeah,
Brian Smith, obviously the Chris Porter one against LSU back in 99 where he like reached back and did that. But I mean, if we're talking like top dunks in Auburn history, there's that one. There's a Kenny Gabriel one that really flies under the radar because it was like
yeah,
against Ole Miss, and we were like the halftime score was like 20-9 that game. If you remember that one, but he had like a 360 alley-oop in that game. Go
yep,
back on YouTube and watch it. Um, there's a lot of good Cambridge dunks. I mean, a lot
yep,
of good. The off the backboard against Georgia was really good from Wendell Green. Believe there was a reverse one against Nebraska that was in a half court set. Um, Jared Harper against Xavier and Maui, like that
yeah.
one was really good. Like it's cool because like there's only like maybe a small few from back in the day that we can like pinpoint, but like the past like 5 6 years, there's a lot to choose from, which shows
I
that the
guarantee you.
athleticism this team has.
Oh, it's not even the same sport that we're playing now compared to what we used to play. I mean, it's ridiculous. I guarantee you we're leaving out some specific Cambridge moments that were incredible. I remember there being a few. I'm struggling to remember the specifics. So Cambridge had a career of great dunks, but I think you'd be hard pressed to say that Jakai in his limited action. Now, granted, we know it's non-conference play, but like I just don't know. The reason Chris Porter, well, Bryant Smith, you're right. Like that is revered. That is such. He was going full speed down the baseline and
Oh, it's
barely had enough
great.
time to get it
I'm definitely
clean.
watching that before I go to bed tonight.
It's that's the toughest one. The second one today for Jakai was he wasn't guarded. It was, but the way he jumped and the way he finished it was stronger because of the action that was happening. I Chris Porter's he grabs a rebound from his hip and then kind of windmill jams it in midair. So that's what always made that one like incredible. It's probably the most well known one. I think Charles had a really good one too, back in his day. So shout out Chuck and Charles Barkley. But like I Jakai to do that in midair on an alley oop, you never see an alley oop windmill dunk. You just don't. I mean, how much basketball have you watched? NBA pro like you never see it. Again, it doesn't matter the competition level. And what's funny is there was a possession right before that where it looked like they were going to get one. And I said, "Oh, look out." And Jakai kind of botched the fast break. And then like the next possession, it was just unbelievable. So, I don't know the exact ranking, but it's safe to say Auburn's never had a game with two dunks in the same game like that that
It
will be
definitely
remembered
This team
historically.
definitely has a 99 2000 feel. Like we all talked about like, back when we were ranked like number one with Jabari Walker, like that felt like that year because we were ranked number one. But like, let's be honest, dude, this team is like way better than that team ever was. And just like the athleticism that they have does mimic that type of team where we were high pace. We were like, this is a perfect Bruce Pearl type of team where he has guys above the rim that are, I think I was watching like the Purdue game, and there was a highlight produced from it that had like a minute and a half worth of dunks against Purdue, all like
Yes.
alley all coming from different people, like that Cheney alley-oop to Denver. Like, dude, just the athleticism and the rolling to the basket, and like that's what I think is separating us from everyone else right now is just like that ability of those players to attack and get to the rim. And like even Janai, we always kind of criticized him early on in his career here about his lift and like the way he can get off the ground. And like Man, like there was that Houston game where he was just dunking on them in that second half. Even at Duke, he had a couple of above the rim plays. Like everyone on this team has that ability. Tahad has that ability. We've only scratched the surface, I think, of Tahad's like fast break dunking ability. But I'm telling you, he's gonna get one in that C play, and we're gonna lose our minds over it.
Oh,
Um,
he's the rare small guard that could dunk on someone. He
yeah,
could definitely dunk on someone if he catches the right angle. Um,
and we
you
will.
mentioned the bigs. How about the big to big passing? We've seen alley. We saw one tonight. Janai to Cardwell. Like I think the overall chemistry, to your point, and you said this a year or two ago, just like it's all about getting older. This is the ultimate thing, and Bruce has said this. Like it's guys who have stayed in the program, and it's a bunch of old transfers, and then a couple freshmen sprinkled in, and you know they are playing together and within a system that has been in place for a decade now so well. They know who they are. They know what looks they're looking for. Sure, Bruce Pearl's team still are going to take some crazy shots every now and then, and you kind of just deal with that because you get all this other great stuff. But they are so in sync. And, SEC play is going to be brutal. We're going to talk about that Thursday night in a preview episode. So if you want to mark your calendars, I think Thursday night around 8 or 8:30 Eastern, we're probably going to go live and do that. Um, my key to SEC play is going to be how many games can you put away before the last 5 minutes? I
Yeah.
think that's going to kind of determine who wins the SEC this year. How many close games are you going to be in that come down to the last possession and they're 50-50 and something weird happens and you can put yourself in jeopardy of losing? But this team has shown so far that they can run away from just about anybody. And by the way, the difference between the 9-9 team and this is the SEC is not even the same conference, first of all. Second of all, the schedule, right? We've never had a year like this where we've played 7 quad 1 games or whatever it is. We've never we're doing historically incredible things. I mean, there's legitimately national writers talking about how this Auburn team is like a historically good basketball team at this point, like over UConn last year, like if by the numbers, right? So it's not just being fan people on a podcast here. This is like a real conversation. Y'all know me if you've listened to this. I'm about as conservative and don't really trust things and need to see it play out. We may not win the SEC. We may go one and done in the tournament again. I don't know, but what we've put on paper to start this season in non-conference play, it's truly one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen with any of my teams in sports. I mean, it is that impressive, and I just want to make sure we all understand that. Don't be so focused that we're number 2 in the AP poll. Like, focus on all these other things that are just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's it. I think Jackson just wants us to go ahead and do this non-conference wrap up right now.
We're doing it right now. We're already doing it.
But dude, I mean, it's incredible because all the hype and the focus on this year was the team across the state, right? I mean, everyone in college basketball writing did
Yep.
not really pay attention to us or what we're putting together over here. Like, yeah, they're kind of talking, but they're all like, well, we need to see what the guards do. We need to see what the guards do. And fair, like that's always been our weakness is our guard play and like how small we are. Well, then we go out and we get 6'6" Miles Kelly. Chad comes back. Denver comes back. Tahad, 5-star freshman. We don't know what he's going to be, but we all who follow basketball know like this guy's different. He's a New Jersey guard. He's tough. Like, let's see what happens when we plug him in. Um, like, we went and got pieces to fill kind of what held us back the past couple years. And then we go out, and I think what really turned this year around was for me, and what I wanted to see from years past was when we got hit in the mouth against Houston in the second half when we went down like 5 with 4 minutes left. It's like Houston hit a three, maybe with like 4 to 3 minutes left, and it was like, okay, so that's probably gonna be an L. It'll be another moral victory. How do we respond here? And then of course, like we come down and Tahad hits a three, and then we get a stop, and then Janai hits like an AM one, and then the rest is history. Then we go to Maui and we play Iowa State. We go down by 20. And it's like, all right, maybe we should have seen some fight. Do we have some fight in us or do we just crumble? Well, then we fight and we fight some more and we take the lead and it's like, dang, like I think we're pretty legit. And then we go out and we just steamroll Memphis, we steamroll North Carolina, we go down at Duke, which is Duke. We will probably, if things work out the way they work out in the tournament, we may play Duke again. Like that could be Elite Eight, that could be Final Four, that could be Sweet 16. Like that, there's a high possibility we play them again because they're that good, and they showcased how good they could be against us, because they had to be that good. Um, and us going down at Duke, fighting back, probably shouldn't take the lead, but they hit a crazy like shot clock buzzer beater to go up by 5. Like just that stuff is what shows me this team is legit. And like you're right, those people who compare us to UConn and to those teams of the past 2 years, especially offensively, like we all saw how UConn operated towards the end of last year and in the tournament. Like seeing how we do that against these teams, these like a Purdue who just took it to Alabama at their home court, to those type of other teams like Ohio State that just took it to Kentucky, and like they had no answer for us. That's where for me I'm like, dang, this is the year. If there's ever going to be a year, this is it. And so we're going to take some losses at SC play. Like it's going to happen. Like it's absolute the best conference probably that's ever lived in terms of basketball this year. Um, 13 teams might get in the tournament, like a record. Like we're going to take some losses. It's just how do we respond from those losses? How did we lose? And are we staying healthy? And like for me, those are all the three keys going into SEC play after this out of conference gauntlet we just had.
Yeah, we got to keep dialing it in. It's only going to get harder. We're only going to play more quad one games, but you really walked us through it well, and we've all had our moments with this team of understanding how good they are. Um, for me, it was Duke. It I thought we played really bad. I thought we played really bad. I thought our defense wasn't up to the level it should be. We hit some threes, if I remember, but
Well, we
it
went up
just
13-2 because Miles Kelly hit like we all hit threes. Like Chad hit a
well, we
three.
had we hit some big ones later. I mean, like we hit. I remember
Todd,
hitting some
yeah,
tough
Todd.
threes that kept us in it, but like we scored 80, and at the time they were the best defense in the country.
And we were
In
in horrible foul trouble. Like just
Yeah,
like, and yes, you're right. That it's different than going, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use this analogy. It's different than going to a football game and losing. Like when you go to a football game and you lose at an away game, it's like crap, season's over. Like whatever. But you come away from that game and you're like, okay, we're actually really good. Like no one wins here. We should have won. Um, it was a prove it game. Like we just won Maui. Let's prove that we're that good, and we showed up and we did, even when we didn't play that good. Like that's what did it for me too, honestly.
that I've never seen an Auburn team, with the floor this high and a ceiling that high. Usually Bruce has had some teams with a really high floor that they played really well together, and they're gonna play hard. They're gonna leave it all out there. But shooting, they just weren't good shooting team, or they weren't like the Walker Jabari. You talk about Monstar guys. I should have used that reference. Jackson loves the Monstars. Um, uh, Walker and Jabari were NBA freaks. Like they did things at their positions that we'd never seen before. But everybody else, like, eh, like I mean, there weren't those other weapons, I guess, to the same level. And this team, not only are they old and experienced and just rock solid in knowing what they're supposed to be doing, but the ceiling, you see these glimpses, these 20-0 runs, these when we defend, being at Purdue, being in Birmingham. Now, granted, that's a big Auburn crowd. It was a great, atmosphere. I was so impressed. You know what got the crowd most hyped, Ryan? It wasn't, I mean, the dunks, you mentioned it, dunking all over the place. We shot clocked them 4 times. We got out in transition and ran. And when this team shows like 5 minute intervals of defensive like excellence, and when they
Yeah,
are there, you're not beating this team. Like now, you can't play that way for 40 minutes, and we're going to have bad shooting. By the way, we shot 27% from three tonight against Monmouth. I mean, like we're going to shoot bad because that's how basketball works. But we have so many other little things that we do well. 22 assists to four turnovers tonight. I know it's Monmouth, but like that's insane. That's insane statistical. And this, as an
SEC
analytics nerd, this team
SEC
is
leading
insane and doing crazy things.
SEC leading assist to turnover ratio, by the way.
Yeah, and it's probably not close. I mean, I
Mm.
would I would imagine. I can't imagine another team is it's
Kentucky
every
is,
game.
yeah, I mean we're about a one ahead of Kentucky for sure. Um,
What's the number? Can you tell? Can you tell what's the number are you looking at?
we have 230 assists to 107 turnovers. They have 225 assists to 117 turnovers.
Okay, so they're close. They're close. That's
Yeah.
impressive for them. I haven't watched much Kentucky, but
I mean,
that's
but
that's good.
they all drive and dish. I mean, that's just Mark Pope
Right.
offense, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I could rant about this team forever, and we will get to as we go into conference play, and we'll talk more about the SEC and how much of a gauntlet it's going to be, and the road games, how hard it is to win away from Neville, and we know what's ahead of us. We've got the Maui title. Now we look ahead to SEC regular season, SEC tournament, NCAA. I think the most exciting thing for us from a tournament, because you're right, no Auburn fan should be afraid to start uh, dreaming about March. I mean, the reality is this team, especially with the last few years, this team has already shown that there will be an expectation to make the second weekend. And there will be a hope that this could be a team, Ryan. This could be one of those teams, like you said, that all you want is a chance to go to the Final Four and a chance to win a national title. If that is the pinnacle, we've done it once. We got hot late in the year that year. This is the most dominant team we've had, and it's so nice to be able to sit here and be confident in that because of the schedule we've played. Doesn't mean it's going to end that way, but right now, where we sit, you cannot. And our resume is going to be insane. How many quad one games do you think we'll have at the end of our 31 game, 34 game, tournament resume? 20?
I wish I had the stat right now because I mean, I saw a stat earlier that showed like how many we have remaining. This was like a week ago, but I can't remember how many. But the majority of them were either quad one or quad two. Like this is our last quad four game today. Everything else is 100% like quad one or at home. Every road game I think is quad one or quad two. Like
Oh, for sure.
there's no break in it. Um,
Yeah.
But it's also when you look at that from our out of conference resume and what we've done statistically, as well as like who we've played and like where can you find our weakness right now? AU Bear 11885 came in with a clutch stat here. All but South Carolina away are quad one. So I'm going to trust AU Bear on that because he's the go here. But he also said Jalen Tomahawk is a top 10 dunk against Alabama last year.
Jalen has had some great ones. He had the off the backboard when he was a first game he was playing against
Oh
Tennessee. That was,
yeah, dang,
but
yeah,
that's not what we saw today. I mean, in all fairness, and I want to give a shout out to Isaac Okoro because Jackson he's right. He posterized somebody. Was it Vanderbilt? Maybe
Vandy, yeah.
he that was a dunking on someone. That was really impressive.
Jalen yammed on someone last year too, like a tomahawk.
He did. Jalen, you know me, love Jalen. I'm just saying, as somebody who's watched basketball for a long time, I don't know if I've ever seen. I know I've never seen the combination of two dunks that Jakai did in the same game, and you never see them in game action, no matter who is playing who. It's just a remarkable. Jackson wanted to make sure we did it. We wanted to make sure we just gushed about it. I don't know. I don't have a top 10 list ready. We didn't have that on our bingo card tonight as we were watching this
Yeah,
Monmouth game. But man, like
yeah.
it is historical. It's not the most important thing about this basketball season, but having a guy like that, uh, it's just the icing on the cake, the cherry on top of what this team is. Because I mean, 4 weeks ago, I wasn't sure he was going to play with everything, and
Yeah.
he's not the best. All, but there's clearly something with him, and the staff took their time. They were going to get him back in this. They know what he is capable of, especially in this role. Like you said, he's going to have a long way to go going to next year. If he stay, hopefully he stays and he can be a crucial, pivotal part of that team next year. But like you're right, I'm so glad you mentioned how great of a setup it is for him to be on this team, and I think getting him in that he is starting to have these moments where hopefully it's easier to feel that way.
Yeah. Um, going back to what I was my original point with the out of conference resume and like who we played so far and like where can you find our weakness? It's funny that and I hate to get on this, but it's funny that Tennessee's number one when you can clearly point out what their weakness is, and it's like, dude, ours isn't even close to that. Like where is our weakness right now? Yeah, like theirs is they have two guys that maybe can shoot threes and everyone else can't. Like that's going to be something that people can exploit easily in conference play. But I digress. It's just one of those things.
Can we sit on that? Can we sit on that point? How would you what would you attack if you were playing in Neville Arena against Auburn? You're coaching a team. You're coaching a top 10 team, whatever. Like you're Todd Golden, you know Bruce and these guys really well. Uh, the only things I can think of are I would drive at number 10 on defense. I would attack off the dribble against the three spot if it's Jakai or Chad. But then you don't want to get inside too much with those big guys. And
Stop trouble.
maybe you could pick on Tahad a little bit at the point, but like defensively, like what can you throw at this team that they haven't already shown that they can solve?
So yeah, here's the thing with Auburn is in every out of conference game, every team has had at least two guys who could fill it up, right? Like North Carolina had two, um, Purdue had two, Ohio State had two. Guess what? Auburn can throw 4 or 5 guys on those two, and they could have the worst nights of their season against Auburn because all the guy from Monmouth tonight was like a top 10 leading scorer in college basketball, top 10 3-point shooter, was 4-15 tonight. Like we give people nightmares because of who we can throw at you. So like Tennessee, for example, they come into Neville, they only had two guys that could shoot threes. Like you're getting Denver Jones and you're getting Chad and you're getting Miles and you're getting all these guys thrown at you. Dylan on a switch that like you think you used to could shoot against other teams. Like you're not gonna be able to shoot that against us. So yeah, it's interesting that you say how do other teams attack us? I mean, got to go back and watch the Duke. You got to have the personnel to do it. You got to have elite talent like what Duke had, and there's just not many teams that can do that against us that like maybe a Duke can or someone else because those teams that we thought had that talent, we blew them away. Like Memphis, like they had the two elite guards, did absolutely nothing, absolutely nothing. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. We'll have to look into that and then talk about our next one when we talk about
Yeah,
SC play to see
yeah. We
how they're
can
going
wrap
to
it
attack
up.
us. I mean,
My only
Missouri,
thing,
for example, I hate to get ahead of ourselves here, but Missouri is going to try to muck it up. That's what they did against
yeah,
Kansas. Can't Kansas. Like they are athletic. They are not very skilled. They're just gritty. They're going to try to get us in foul trouble. Like that's how they're going to try to beat us. Like
and it will be a challenge, and we'll have to show up and play and earn. I think it's at home, right? So we get to play them at home, but um, but we played at Houston. Like that's kind of my take.
yep.
It's like we have proven that we can handle the most physical muck it up challenge that there is playing college basketball in playing them and not playing them at home. So yes, and I just think we're so battle tested. We're gonna lose. I mean, like you said, like, it's gonna happen, but like it's not because this team is really good. And my last thing, Jackson always talks about, you know, have people figured out their roles? Like, what are the people's roles? And I've given it a hard because sometimes I think that can be a little overrated. But when you sit here, getting ready for conference play, we have worked it out already to where everybody kind of knows where they're at on this team. And I won't bore everybody and go down the list, but if you just, everybody on that team knows Janai's the best player. Everybody on the team knows what Chad can do offensively. Everybody on the team knows what Denver is two-way. Everybody knows what the freshman we've talked about can do. Cheney's a proven commodity now. He's not a flash in the pan backup with athleticism. You know what I mean? Like the roles are defined. The team is really good. Now, how do we keep reaching and getting even better and stronger and staying healthy, like you said? And there's going to be some great scouts against us, and people are going to maybe throw some things, but I'm just really confident in this staff with this group. I think we're going to have a chance to win every game we play all year. I think we're going to have a shot, even in the tournament, no matter how deep we get.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the YouTube chat real quick. We got some
Yeah.
good stuff coming in there. Ben said the gap between Auburn and UConn, number one, number two offense, is wider than the gap between UConn and Oregon, which is number 22
Wow.
offense. So
Wow.
that's pretty hard to wrap your mind around there. It's just like how efficient we are offensively. I try to tell people that like and I tell I'm gonna bring my wife into this. I tell her all the time. She's like, "Why are you so into and standing so close to the screen on every game?" Because I watch the games like this, like because I'm like, babe, I may never see this again from an Auburn team. Just like how efficient we are on offense because like we've been waiting so long for this. Like in previous Auburn teams, the ball would stick. But man, just moves so well. It moves just the screens that we're running. How every guy, like when Dylan Carville gets the ball top of the key, Miles Kelly is cutting from a Janai screen on that back door, and people cannot stop it. We do it every
Nope.
game, and people can't like they know what we're running, and yet they can't stop it at all, and
It's
it's
that
just
flex, man. It's that
crazy.
flex action, like that's so old school and that Bruce has always run. But you're right, the personnel is just perfect.
KD would do it last year, but like Miles doing it is just it's funny because like they have to respect him coming off the high ball screen to
Yep.
shoot. KD like whatever, but him faking and then going back under the basket. Like Dylan hits him almost every time. He did that against Iowa State under a minute. I don't know if you remember that.
And if you guard that, Janai's right there for that little kind of halfway up the side of the key pass, and he's 8 feet away, and he's gonna hit 90% of those shots. Like
And that,
it's
and that's and that's just basic offense we run. That's not even like the stuff
yep,
we run at end of the games against like Houston, against Iowa State, where we need stuff, and we're doing stuff that's like we never seen before. This is just
yep,
basic like stop us if you can type of offense that we're
yep.
running.
No,
Um,
it's great.
AU Bear said again, we're talking about how you stop Auburn. Someone said drive on Hyde, foul Cardwell, get Kelly or CBM to overcommit, get the open three. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
those definitely the Tahad is the reason why he came out against Duke. I would say he
That
has.
will not happen again, though. I'm on record. That will not happen again.
I would say though he's focused a lot on his defense. I mean,
Yep,
and the staff has too. That like him defensively has really picked it up, and you've seen that, and you saw it against Purdue, you saw it against Ohio State, you saw it against Georgia State. Like the guy is reading defense better. I think the game's slowed down for him defensively. So yes, like that's going to be something that teams are going to try to expose, but I think he's gotten better at that
he has.
as the season's gone on, which is to be expected. I mean,
Do
dude's
you
only
remember how much better Jared Harper got over his 3 years defensively? Like he just by the time he that was a huge part of that run is that people could not just pick on him and Bryce. Like they had
no.
become plus defenders even at their size.
Yeah, so that's going to be key. I mean, that's the reason why they would take Jakai out of games earlier on and now, and yet they let them in there today to figure some of that stuff out. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
um,
But you mentioned he played significant minutes against Purdue. They clearly took maybe after that Duke game and said, okay, like we to keep optimizing this team, we need to reduce JP's minutes and pretty much take him out of the rotation and
Completely.
open up more minutes. And they kind of decide the same thing about Hudson. And Hudson and JP at this point are foul trouble, injury fill in guys. And then we're going to get Ja'Kai more minutes. And we're going to live with some missed assignments and we're going to live with a couple bad shots because he gives this team an element that nobody else has. And if Jackson was here, he'd be raving about that because that is exactly what he wants to see from our coaches and from the program. And
If
you
we
Bear knows ball, by the way. That's a great answer. And Cardwell, he was shooting 29%. Somebody said we should give him the MVP on Reddit because he hit 2 free throws. Well, he missed 4.
Yeah, his dude,
It's,
last year his free throw shooting was so good. He has regressed again.
well, it's just it is what it is. But to AU Bear's point, like we can't have Cardwell on the floor tight late because I think we're so efficient. They're gonna foul him. I mean, I would. Would you not foul him automatically if he gets the ball in a late game? I
Yeah,
would.
dude. So last night I got bored, and I couldn't sleep, so I rewatched the Iowa State game, and he was in the game to the last possession. I don't know if
Yep.
people realize that. And like, you're right. Like, why wouldn't you foul him? To like,
Now he has to have the ball. You can't just foul somebody away from the ball now, right? If they think it's
correct.
intentional.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you are right. Yes. But like, still, like the fact
but
that he
we
was in the game late, I didn't realize that, in the moment, like we were so hyped that we won that game, and like Iowa State's really freaking good too, and like, so I rewatched that from a clear perspective, and I was like, holy crap, he was in the game late and had a pass to Miles Kelly to like under a minute to get, to tie
yep.
it. Like, holy cow. And so yeah, but like he would never touch the ball. You're right. Period.
We've only had a few opportunities to see it. If you're looking for something exciting to keep an eye on, we are going to play closer games, the rest of the way. Um, Maybe not every night, but who is that finishing five? I think it very well could be a team where that's different depending on the match. We've seen Tahad be out. I think they're going to ride with Tahad as he gets more comfortable late in games offensively. But then if you play Tahad, you're probably playing Denver, which means you're either Miles or CBM's not on the floor. If you play Dylan
Probably Miles off.
and Miles off the floor, probably right. Yeah. Uh, Dylan, if you play him, you're not having Cheney. So it will be interesting, and I think it probably will be matchup and personnel based, depending on that game. But that's a fun game we have in our group chat when it's close at the under 4 timeout in the second half. Like, all right, who put us all on record? Who would you want to close with? And then you see what the coaches do. So we will get to see
Yeah.
more of that.
Yeah, some other quick things, and then we can wrap up. If Cheney and Cardwell get into foul trouble, I'm not sure what we have at the four. Um, yeah, I mean, we're probably gonna find that out at some point in SEC play, but Jaheim has shown he can defend a little bit. I don't really know what we have there with him. I don't know kind of what the answer is with Jaheim. Like, we'll find out. I don't know, but
Again, great I'm glad we have JP. Look, I even sometimes am glad we have AD Scott just in case. I don't think he'd ever play, but
he's not touching the court. They're gonna try to get him to go next year. Apparently,
I'm sure they'll give him a shot. But Hudson and JP are one injury away from playing. Like that is a reality, and I'm so glad we have them. I hope they can stay right and ready, as Bruce says.
one plane flight away from playing.
That's right, one plane flight away. A. Barrett needs to come on this podcast. I'm just going to go on record because he's right. His other comment was just there's if you've just watched a lot of basketball, even if you've just gotten into Auburn basketball the last 7 years, which a lot of people are in that boat. Like this team just looks different. And if you've watched a lot of college basketball, you can kind of just tell there's a different, it's just different. It just is. And it's not fan bias. It's so far, this team just looks different than other teams. And it's been so fun. I mean, Ryan, I know you're on X all the time. You're seeing people react to the national people watching these big Auburn games are like, whoa, like what is that? Like that Auburn team looks scary. They look really legit. John Fanta and like all these guys like who are just eat, sleep, breathe college basketball that we know about John Rothstein. It is a different team than we've ever seen at Auburn, and it doesn't mean the other teams weren't great and they all had their historical relevance for us and they will never fade. But like the sights of this team should be higher than all those teams. It just should, based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, this team's got it. I hope
Have you ever felt more comfortable watching a team that you cared about this much? I have not.
uh yeah, I mean that's a great point. I I went to my doctor the other day. My blood pressure is looking good. All my labs are looking good. And I was like, Auburn basketball's playing well, man. So everything's going well. Um, so yeah, I mean, and also the fact that we're playing so well, we don't have to like go out and defend basketball of like how it's like how college basketball is, to people who don't watch it a lot, like, and that we're just pummeling people. And yeah, that's probably gonna come up here, soon about, SEC play, and we're gonna lose the game and people are gonna freak out, and it is what it is. But um yeah, I mean, comfortabilities like Purdue, for example, we were tied 15-15. um, we had an alley to Dylan Cardwell, and I was watching with the guy who's a Tennessee fan. I was like, "Watch this, we're about to go." And then we went on this huge run, went up 33 to like 17 at that point or something. Like we just we do something like that, and then we get a stop, and it's just on. And like we've seen it every game, and like there's no question about that moving forward. Like there may be a game where we don't have that point that it happens, and it may just be a one-off. Like Mississippi State, for example, just goes off from the three, and we like just can't buy a basket. Like whatever, fine. That happened last year. We lost to Alabama, lost to Mississippi State, played them again, beat them in the tournament, whatever. But like you're right. Like I just don't have that stress that I've had in the past when it comes to Washington
It,
State.
it'll be tight. I was nervous watching Duke because I wanted that one bad just for the historical. But and
Man,
I
I was
it
shaking.
will
I was shaking at the game, honestly, because I was like,
it
man, I really hope we just show up here. I really hope we do well.
it will get tighter. I'm not saying it won't be stressful because college basketball is one of the most stressful things in the world, I think. But uh, if I just think this team, I trust them to find the answers. I trust them to over 40 minutes just impose their will, and I think they're going to be able to do that even in a tough SEC, um, more than they're not. And I'm going to be really nervous for those Alabama games because I want those bad. I'm just going on record right now. They're really good. I don't care what people say. They're very. That's going to be a tough one. Tennessee's obviously. We only play them at home, right?
Yep.
Oh man, that ticket. And then we close the season with
Uh,
Alabama. So
I looked today. Cheapest ticket for the Tennessee game is 515 standing room only.
hey,
Stupid.
it's probably going to go up. Okay, like that. I don't know how late in the season is that.
That is January 25th.
Oh, so that's pretty early. Okay, but still, I mean that's only a couple weeks away from being a one versus two potentially. I hope they lose. I hope they lose
Yeah,
5-1.
folks, if you want to see Auburn basketball play this year and you don't have a ticket to a home game, take a look at the games at Vandy, at
Georgia.
LSU. LSU is like $30. You could spend travel to get there and back home, and you would spend less than going to see a game at Neville Arena, which is just
Yeah, go on the
tonight's
road.
cheapest ticket against Monmouth, was I think 115 at tip.
Wow, that's insane.
It's crazy.
It's and I love that you mentioned the. I have to share this just because if Ryan wasn't on the pod, I wouldn't share this. But the Toys for Tots game, where you would
Yeah,
go and you would bring a toy for somebody in the community, and you got to go for free or $5 or whatever it was, like that. That is our roots as a program. That was not too long ago. That was a real thing.
man, I used
Uh,
to, as someone from Montgomery, every Christmas my dad would take us. I have three brothers. We would drive to Beard Eves. We'd all have a toy. We'd all get it for free, and we go sit all the way down in the blue sleet seats. I guess like Alabama State or like someone like that. and have like the coolest view of that team when they were playing, like Lucas Hargrove and Frank
Yeah.
Tolbert, Quantez Robertson, like that team. And then I was talking to my dad the other day with as someone now with two little kids. I'm like, Dad, I cannot take my kids to a game now because if they have to have a ticket, it's like $40 to $50 or more. It's almost impossible. I was like, I wish they had Toys for Tots still. Like I understand why I went to so many um Auburn games growing up during the holidays because like that was the thing. You could just take it and go, and you get it for free. Now it's impossible. Now I got to go. You know, shout out to our women's team, but like that's the only way I can take my son to games is
Yeah.
one.
To quote you, you've always been really big on like, hey, Auburn supports a winner, and they do, no matter what it is. The Auburn will support. And so, to Ryan's point, we've all been through this now a few times. Everybody knows the drill, but like, pick a game, not in Auburn. Like, come to Nashville in February. Go to Columbia, South Carolina. Go to Athens, Georgia. Go to LSU. There's 9 opportunities to watch Auburn play on the road in somewhere that's close enough to you to drive. I guarantee you that's the way to go. Because even Knoxville, or we don't play in Knoxville, but even the big arenas have more seats, and it's not necessarily the pinch on ticket prices. Why don't y'all all just go ahead and buy tickets in Tuscaloosa for that basketball game? Why don't we do that? Let's all go over there. It's cheaper. You can go over there and watch Auburn play. So prepare to do that, and everybody just take a breath. We made it through the best non-conference schedule we've ever had with one close loss at Cameron Indoor. We won Maui, which is something we never thought we'd be able to say. And now the real gauntlet of the SEC regular season begins. SEC preview coming from the pod on Thursday. We're excited. This is the best time of year. Basketball starts to take center stage as we get to the next few weeks, and we're not too far from March. So it's going to get fun, Ryan. Any final thoughts?
No, it's just it's about to get real fun. It's about to get the beginning of SC play is almost so much fun. Like you're gonna have some surprises. You're gonna have some teams that go down that shouldn't go down. You're gonna have some teams that excel that shouldn't, and it's gonna be really fun. I just think it's crazy. We're 12-1 after seeing what our schedule was gonna be like at the beginning of this year, and like now looking back at it, I'm just like, Psh, of course we're 12-1. Like who should have saw this coming? Like, of course we should have saw this coming, but yet here we are. I mean, just absolutely just so much fun. I hope everyone is taking it in because we don't see this often. I'm taking it in game by game. I'm going back and watching all the highlights game by game. Like it's just it's just an absolutely incredible time to be um, an Auburn basketball fan after all we've gone through.
I can't believe it, man. Ryan's one of the OGs, been doing it his whole life, and I'm the same way. It's unbelievable. It really, you just have to laugh that this is the reality that we're in. And I don't know, it could end up just killing all of our hearts. Probably what's going to happen, honestly. But for the meantime, it's just enjoy the team. This team is so likable. They're so fun to watch. This coaching staff is great. The vibes are high, as you said, and they're only going to get more intense, more real as we go. Ben's making fun of us because we podcasted so long. Um, Shout out to Ben for holding down the fort. Hopefully, we can give him some good support in SEC play coming up. And we will be back for our SEC preview soon. So thanks for everybody for listening, for watching on YouTube. Share it with your friends. Let's get basketball going in 2025, and let's make it a good season. Ryan, thanks for joining us tonight, and War Eagle. Nice. All right, YouTube. I'm getting out of here. Thanks for the
Yeah,
comments.
man, it's
Um,
before 10 p.m. That's beautiful.
I know I know it was a weird time, but I liked. Shout out to Glenn showing up in the chat. A lot of
Glenn
good
said
comments.
Buzz Williams teams always play us close, and that's a fact.
They do. That is no fun to. If there's one thing that makes me mad more than anything else, it's how much the rest of the SEC decided to care about basketball coaches at the same time that we did. There are so many good coaches in this league, and Buzz is certainly one that It's just hard to play. He's hard for a lot of people to play, but there's we've talked about this on the pod if you've listened, but Kermit Davis was one for a while at Ole Miss. Frank Martin at South Carolina early in Bruce's tenure. Hard to argue that anybody else besides Nate Oates and Buzz Williams, right? That's probably the two that had the most success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sadly, I'd love to get rid of one of those.
Maybe John Cal. I
Uh,
mean, it's about
well,
splitting.
yeah. Or do we play in Lexington this year? I think we do, right?
Yeah, against Kentucky we do. That's
And
either
that's
that's a March 1st game.
that's that's the other historical thing we haven't done. I mean, my whole life we've never won in Kentucky, so that would be a good one to get because they're good. I watched a couple of their games; they're good.
Yeah, that's a brutal last stretch of the season. We have last three games at Kentucky, at A&M, Alabama at home. So
Wow.
I mean, and just honestly looking at it, Ole Miss, Georgia before then, Arkansas, Alabama again. Like, I mean, I know like I kind of crap on Ole Miss because I think they're fake, but we'll see. I don't know.
I mean, even just the fact that like at Texas next week is
Yeah,
like,
they're the highest percentage shooting 3-point team in the SEC this year.
Texas.
Texas, we're number two. They shoot
Wow.
41% from the three.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
I
granted,
just
they
hope
have they have 50 less attempts than we do, but yeah, they're gonna
we
be
jack
fired
them
up
up.
coming in there.
Yeah, I mean, I just we know we've been around long enough. Every game on the road, buckle up, and it's going to be no different this year. No matter how good we are, um, it gets everybody. UConn had a few games last year in conference. It's just tough, man. I mean, but you like your chances.
It was only Creighton.
They only lost to Creighton.
Pretty sure, yeah.
I thought maybe they had two
They only lost like two games last year. It was
non-conference.
no, you're right. You're right. Providence. It was like Creighton and Providence, and they lost to Kansas. So they had three losses.
Oh gosh, I forgot Mike White was at Georgia until somebody commented on that. That's annoying.
Yeah, they got Asa Newell. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh wow, yeah.
He's having a
Dude.
pretty good year so
Yeah, they're
far.
not bad. Georgia's getting better. I mean, the bottom of the league is just good luck. I mean, South Carolina, I guess, is the worst team, right? Outside of that,
Which is just
uh,
wild because I mean they overperformed last year if you think about it. Like, and then we exposed them twice. Every
I
time
mean,
we
it's you're just
played
gonna have
them.
to bring your. I just love the toughness that our guy. That would be my only. That was my question before the year was how mentally tough is this team, and I think they've really shown a lot so far, and they're going to need it
Asa
in
Newell
these
has been
moments.
the leading scorer in every game they played in besides um, 5 games. So he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's a good player. It'll be fun, man. Well,
Cheapest
you
ticket
know,
to the Georgia game at Georgia is $52. Snatch
yeah,
them up.
somebody was saying it was sold out. A lot of these games are sold out, but you buy tickets off the secondaries, so like make sure you're looking at all the StubHub, TickPick, whatever site you prefer, Game Time. Find yourself some deals. SeatGeek, use them all.
Ben, you can just put Janai on the graphic. Sorry, I know they're gonna hate that.
Deny,
Uh,
deny, deny, deny.
Luka Thomas
Even
said,
though
"Who else thinks we're going 15-3 in the SEC?" He
that
must have
that
saw
wins
he
that
must have
wins
saw
the
the Ken Palm graphic today.
yeah, that's the projection, and that wins the league. Hey, I mean that's got to win the league, I think. Um, yeah,
I can't wait
15
to
and 3
ask.
sounds.
I can't wait to ask.
Sign me up.
I can't wait to ask on our next one. Would you rather win the regular season or the tournament?
NCAA tournament or SEC.
No, the SEC tournament.
I'd say regular season, but
Yeah, but who won the regular season last year?
I'm not saying it. I value the regular season championship. I'm an outlier. I know.
I live in the
I'm aware.
present, so I don't really care. Whatever happens, happens.
I just think the 18. I think winning this year's SEC matters. Not from a nobody will care, nobody will know next year, but like I think it matters. And I think the SEC tournament, just by nature of you're only playing 3 games, hopefully. Um,
Everybody's saying regular season or both. I think
I mean,
regular.
both is the answer, but if you had to pick one, and maybe it's because we won the tournament last year, so now I'm like itching for that regular season again. I was itching for the tournament. We have been so bad in the SEC tournament going into last year.
All we gotta do is win one game, and then we're winning the whole thing. That's just our track record.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
You just got to win the
If we
first
lose,
game.
then if you
I used
win
to
one,
watch Auburn.
winning all.
I've been in Nashville for quite a long time, and I used to go on Wednesday night and watch Auburn play in the first round of the SEC tournament against. They lost on a buzzer beater one year to like Missouri that I was there
Missouri.
for. They lost some brutal first round SEC tournament game. That Alabama game was miserable at the
At St.
quarterfinal game.
Louis. I was there.
Oh my gosh, terrible.
Freaking Colin.
But
Freaking. Uh, they're
this is like this is like karaoke. We're gonna give the chat. If you're still listening to this, shout out. Give us. You have 2 minutes to just ask literally
Give me a
anything.
random Auburn basketball player. I'll talk about him.
Yes. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun game. Let's get random
You better
Auburn hoops guy.
give me an Auburn basketball player, and I'll talk about him.
Guaranteed. This is what we do sometimes in the group chat. It's fun. How about this guy? I'll start us off. Uh, Brendan Knox, skinny post guy. You remember him?
Yes, Brendan Knox.
He
He
JUCO.
was good. He was a good back to basket over the shoulder guy. Him and I'll throw another name out on that team, Johnny Lett.
I was gonna say Johnny Lett because I met him and he's awesome. Shout out Johnny Lett.
I used to have their
Shout out.
posters in my room back in the day. I used to be like, these guys are so good because they're like 7 feet and they can like do. So Vera, I mean, he got engaged and I think married, but
Carter Severa. Yeah.
he had a cool like and one last year. I remember.
Did he get us to 100 one year? I feel like he
Yeah, that
did.
was like an AM, yeah, like an AM1 layup or something.
Yeah,
What
AU
game
Bears
did he
on
put
it,
us
man.
over 100? I don't remember that game. It was early on. And I was
How
hoping
about
for,
how
I
about
was,
this guy, Ryan? Dwayne Reed.
dude, Dwayne Reed won us that game against Florida in the SC tournament in 2009 when
Yeah.
he drove the lane, passed it up to Courtney Barber, RIP, and we won and then lost to Bruce in that next game when he had Tennessee. That was
Mhm.
the year that we needed like two SEC tournament wins um, to get us to the tournament. We were like so close.
Simeon Bowers, Glenn talked about. He was on the pod. If you want a funny pod episode, deep cut to go listen to, we interviewed Simeon Bowers on the pod while he was getting his haircut. One of my favorite moments in this pod's history. So go look that up if you really want some entertainment. He was, man, that was such a time with Bruce's teams early on because he had to play some point guard. He was a fun player though. I liked he he was never a guy you had to worry about trying on, which I appreciated about him. He gave great effort all the time. He was undersized for how big he was, and he did some great things. He was a good player.
He helped set the foundation. We all thought he was the next coming of Charles Barkley at the time because we never had a player like that.
Well, yeah, that's like the next coming of Charles Barkley because he could score and like
Yeah.
dribble a little bit and he was big and like it's like you talking about the post players. Hey, those were nice post players. No offense to those guys.
Yeah.
They were not good. They were not good
Tyler
SEC.
Harris. Tyler Harris was one of those guys. It was like,
Yeah, but like even
man,
Tyler Harris was
He's
better.
Tobias Harris's brother. He's so good. It was like, now looking back at it, I'm like, okay, well,
That was still stepping up. I mean, that's how bad
yeah,
it was. It was still better. What was that guy? Deshaun Murray. I really like Deshaun Murray. Undersized
yeah. He
little
was only here for one
post.
year.
I know. What about I saw the game winner. I forgot the game winner that TJ Dunnins hit in non-conference play, fading away on the
Oh, against
at the
Mercer. I was at that game.
Mercer. That was a bad game.
Yeah.
But we
But
won.
Mercer had beaten us at Beard East before, so it was like, dang. And that was the year that we lost to Missouri in the
Oh yeah.
and that was the year that like people were starting to ask like is Bruce really like the guy?
Is he actually good?
Yeah.
Who knows, Ryan? Is he good? Um,
I look up at the
Josh Dollard.
Raptors and I say, yeah, I think he is.
Josh Dollard was an actual good post player. That was a good player back in the day. I like Josh Dollard. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Oh,
he had some highlight dunks um back in the day against Auburn or for Auburn against Alabama and like some of those teams. When we were just like
did
kind
you
of
see?
raw.
Did you
Uh,
see AU Bears last one? We're gonna date you now. I don't know if you can get this one. Nate Watson. Remember Nate Watson?
yeah, he was on the um
He
2000.
was with.
He was a freshman in 2001, 2002,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
all the way to 2004, I think. But he
That's
transferred
right.
to Providence, right? Am
He
I
went
right about
somewhere.
that? Let me look.
I Yeah, check that. I'm not totally sure. That gets close to the end. I remember my earliest memories were those
He was
mid
from
to
Fort
late
Hays.
'90s teams. So that shows my age. But Brandon Robinson, Doc obviously was great. Scotty Pullman, all those guys, uh, Mamadou. So, but a couple years before, well, and Damien, I remember Damien Fishback barely. I was like 5 or 6 back then. Um, that's about as far back as I go. Frank Tolbert was my time at Auburn, and he was a great dude.
Six figures.
Seriously, great guy.
Six figures.
Lucas Hargrove was the student section. I was one of about 11 people that participated in the student section back then at Auburn, and Lucas Hargrove was definitely one of the favorites. He was kind of the Dylan Cardwell of that generation of like engaging with the fans and cared a lot.
He had some good dunks,
Uh,
man. He got to the rim pretty well.
yeah, no doubt. I'm trying to remember a couple of guys. Who else was on the 2003 team with Marquise? Like Marquise was so good. Kyle Davis, is
Kyle
that Kyle
Davis.
Davis?
Kyle
Yeah.
Davis.
Um,
Who else?
who's the guard? Um, well, Marquise was kind of a
There was
wing.
Nathan Watson. I used to play with at the rec because
Somebody else used to tell me about Nate Watson.
he used to came back to the rec like when I was at school between 2010 and 2014. And he was like back in grad school. He's like, yeah, I used to play overseas and like, dude, he would just light us up playing. Um, it was so much fun.
Yeah, if you want to, one of the, I mean, a lot of you guys I think know this who are listening to this, but our Jackson and I's favorite thing we've gotten to do is just getting to interview Sonny Smith and Cliff Ellis, and Bruce obviously, so and Stephen Pearl and Burgomaster, and like if you're really into Auburn hoops and you weren't listening back then, that's probably a fun thing to do. That's a small niche percentage of people who would want to go back and listen to all those. But if you're listening now, you probably fall into that. And if you weren't kind of paying it, we got some really good interviews early in the first year of this pod that helped legitimize it a little bit. And getting to talk to those coaches was definitely like kind of bucket list stuff for Jackson and I.
I've got a couple of guards from that 2002, 2003 team.
Give it to me.
Um, Luis Monroe.
Forgot about him. Wow. Oh yeah, that's good.
Uh, then you have Troy Gaines. I don't know if you remember him.
No, not really. I don't remember.
Marco Killingsworth.
Okay, Marco was a player.
He
Marco
went
was a
to,
good player. Was he from Indiana? Did he
he
transfer from
transferred to
Indiana?
Indiana.
He transferred to Indiana. That's right. Good player.
Jonathan Lewis.
Mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
Nate Watson was one of them. Brandon Robinson.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, that's about it.
What about you know who else I like? I got to give a shout out. What was his name? Oh goodness. Oh, Josh Wallace, little walk on point guard. Give me some Josh Wallace, man. Let's go.
that's just that makes me so mad about the Tony Barbie area that we had to start a walk-on point guard for every game because he just sucked at recruiting so much.
I'm trying to remember some of the big guys that Barbie recruited that were never
Sean
that
Dixon
good.
Tatum.
A Sean Dixon Tatum. Um, man, you know who I really liked in the Barbie era. You know the potential, the big signee, Josh Langford.
Yeah, he never worked out, man.
Never worked out. Good athlete though.
Just he just like couldn't. Barbie was on him always so much. He would yell mid-game like, "Josh, what are you doing?" And like just
He would.
could never figure it out. I don't know. But he's from
Tony
Auburn.
Douglas. Hey, I got two names. Tony Douglas, somebody mentioned in the chat. He played in the NBA. He was a good
Yeah, he was
player.
with the Knicks for a little bit.
Tony Douglas could ball. And the other guy that I grew up in the 90s who was at Auburn, transferred somewhere else, I think. You notice a trend back in the day that any of our good players left. Um, Moochie Norris. If anybody remembers, Moochie Norris played for the Rockets, played for some other great players or teams. Moochie Norris was one of those guys growing up that I was like, man, that's a good player. And then I think he left, went somewhere else.
Yeah, Tony Douglas is really good. He played like I think he's still playing actually overseas. Um, but yeah, he transferred to Florida State and then went first round, played with the Knicks back when they got like Jeremy Lin. But he was like a
Insanity.
journeyman in the NBA, like went from team to team and it
If you didn't
fit.
know, Ryan's a big Knicks guy, Knicks fan, so that's
I am.
his
Yeah, we
NBA
signed Chandler
team.
and cut him, unfortunately.
I grew up in Houston and only cheer for the Rockets when they're relevant, which they were
Tony,
kind of relevant almost.
no, Frankie Sullivan was on the 2008, 2009 SC tournament team that did pretty well. I thought it was Tony Douglas for a minute, but it was not. It was Frankie Sullivan.
Oh, so Frankie Sullivan, that's during my time as well. He was I remember watching Frankie Sullivan play and being like, this is the only high basketball IQ player on our team for multiple years. He knew ball.
Yeah, he
He
did.
could
He
score.
could get downhill pretty quickly too.
And just a solid basketball player. Like that's what's so underrated. I mean, you can have guys who score, but just like, are you a good basketball player? Like Jalen Williams was a good basketball player.
Yeah,
Sure, sometimes he wouldn't shoot or score enough, but like he's a good basketball player. He's a winning basketball player. Oh, I can't believe we didn't mention on the pod, Ryan. Dang it. Bruce is one win away from tying the Auburn record. So, and then
no
what
way.
was the other thing? Yeah, I knew he was close. I was thinking about it yesterday. He could tie on Saturday and then take it next week if we win the next two. And
This is
then
gonna be
there was
this is gonna
another
be the last thing that I gotta go. But I saw Bruce
big,
was talking to who was the player from Monmouth after the game.
big good player. Yes.
My whole thing with why I think Auburn schedules some of these teams that have really good players is to eventually recruit them.
Totally. That's totally happened. JP Pegues, they didn't want to sign JP Pegues because he hit a shot against Virginia 2 years ago. They signed him because they played closed door scrimmage against Furman with the last 2 years, I believe. And that's totally happening. And whether it happens with him or not, who knows? But I guarantee you, when you have nine seniors, I guarantee you that's happening. Those conversations are happening. And Bruce loves those small conference, move up a level, humble and hungry guys. And I guarantee you a few guys on our team next year will, even if they're not that guy from Monmouth, they will fit that mold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Ryan. Well, uh, this is what Ryan and I would do if we were just had no obligations in life. We would just sit here and talk about Auburn basketball players for hours. So we hadn't done a pod together in a while. So shout out to everybody else still here watching us. Can't
Thanks,
believe it's double
Glenn.
digit.
Thanks, AU Bear.
Shocking. Enjoy the pod. Look for the preseason or SEC preview, and we will catch you on a few days. And Happy New Year to everyone. 2025. Let's make it a good